All right, good morning. My name is Alex. I'm one of the two Adobe evangelists at the University of Arizona. If you check the chat, we've sent you the link to this resource page. This is kind of a asynchronous resource for you that you'll have access to whenever. We'll also be posting the workshop recording here. So if you don't remember something we said or showed, you'll be able to find it here. So I am here with Brian, the other Adobe evangelist, and with Samantha. I'm going to give her a chance to introduce herself in a moment because we're going to start with her. So today's theme is portfolios, kind of generally, and then we're going to talk about how to make portfolios using SparkPage. So with that being said, I'm going to hand it over to Samantha and we'll get started. As we are doing our thing, we encourage and welcome questions. So please, anything you'd like to know, anything that you'd like clarified, put it in the chat and we'll talk about it. And go ahead, Samantha. Thank you.
Can you see the Adobe page?
We can.
Okay, perfect. So good morning, everybody. My name is Samantha. I am an instructional designer over at Digital Learning. But for 5 years before that, I taught with the writing program at the University of Arizona. And one really important fundamental assessment we do with our students, regardless of what level English it is a portfolio. And the reason for that is pretty inherent. A portfolio is a great opportunity for students to make connections about their learning over a long period of time. It's not like a summative assessment test where they sit down and just write, and there's not usually there's not reflection with those sort of assessments. And then an e-portfolio, in addition to having all of the affordances that a portfolios provide, allow students to create digitally, which can look like a plethora of multimodal things. This can be art, this can be uploading pictures of artifacts, this can be sounds and audio recordings, textual, etc. And they can build it over time, which is really important for a portfolio. Something that I would suggest you do with students from the very beginning of a semester, if you are going to do a portfolio with them, is let them know right from the beginning. If you ease them into it and they're collecting their artifacts as they go, it'll be a lot easier for them to create the portfolio at the end in a meaningful way, instead of the week before finals is due realizing that they have to go back in time and find all these files and reflect on all these things that they haven't seen in 16 weeks. So some tips that I have regarding portfolio planning is, in addition to bringing it up at the beginning of the semester or as early as possible, is to create an outline or a map with those explicit connections. There are many ways to do this. One way is to create a literal mind map. I did this in class live with my students. In our case, what we wanted them to do was triangulate between three things: the course goals or student learning outcomes, the specific assignments or artifacts that they had created, and then their own personal associations and reflections. So if you don't have course goals or student learning objectives or outcomes set at the beginning, I would recommend that you negotiate that with your students or create those. If they don't know what they're explicitly supposed to be learning or practicing throughout a course, then that reflection and connection making piece is really difficult. So what we did for them is we did this 4 times. They picked one course concept, one student learning outcome. They made their connections. They went through their D2L, our learning management system, looked at everything they had turned in, went through their notebooks, and pulled ones that they thought were relevant to whatever emotional or process-based connections they were making. Another way you can do this, and this works for really entry-level students, especially freshmen, if this is their first time doing a sort of portfolio. I'm a big fan of having explicit planning done. So in this case, we wrote down the 4 course goals, and then we asked them to copy the part of the goal and paste it that they were most attracted to. And then whatever their writing sample or artifact was, so maybe they write essay 1, my narrative, And then the explanation. So why is choosing essay one my narrative and achievement form, or showing my achievement or showing my struggles? That's another thing, is portfolios don't always have to be showing how demonstrating your success with learning in the course. It can also be demonstrating what you struggled with or a process that was really hard for you, because that's still reflecting on your learning, and that is still helpful and beneficial to the students. And then lastly, I really encourage you to have your students, again, collecting those files ahead of time and also keeping them all in one place. I don't know about any of you, but I know that my Google Drive is a mess. Sometimes my work laptop is a mess. I have files on my desktop, and I remember that one file I sent as an attachment for an email. I'll remember to retrieve it when the time comes. No, I will not. So really encourage your students to have everything in one place as they go. If something is holding someone back from creating a successful portfolio, it should not be locating files. And then Alex, I will kick it back to you.
Thank you, Samantha. And that's some really great insight on portfolios in general. And I think organizational skills can never be stressed enough. And that also goes with naming your files correctly too, because 3 months later, if everything's named Untitled 1 through 37, you're losing precious time. So we did have another partner collaborator today, but she couldn't make it due to unforeseen circumstances. So I'm going to share her part for us and hopefully do an okay job. She shared 2 student final portfolios, and they were kind of examples of 2 variations on a portfolio idea. So she encourages us to consider the purpose of a portfolio. So let's look at these together. The first one is a reflection on a semester-long project and the stages it was developed in. So this particular student was already pretty digitally literate. She was good with the apps, and she used them to create various aspects of her website. And then she also used it as an opportunity to reflect. And I think we can agree that reflection is an invaluable tool to know what we learned, what we could have done better, and where we fell short, which is the same as where we could have done better. So let's, and this is, of course, something that you can check out. You have the link to if you like. But if we click on it, we're going to be focusing on using Spark Page as the venue for our portfolios. So they always start out with a big hero image for us, with a title and a subtitle, Final Reflection by Fabi. Pretty good. And as you scroll down, you'll see what I love about Spark Page is that it has built-in interactivity, kind of just things that make it feel less static. So if you watch as we scroll, a little kind of gradient fade effect happens and the text kind of disappears into the next section. So she starts with her little introduction, kind of, you can build it out however you like, but hers is an introduction, and she explains how she used a particular app called Capture with this slide split view element, which is great. So we have a text element and then split view where you can put an image and then any media on the right-hand side. She's doing it in first person and really emphasizing her perspective and experience, which is, I think, absolutely a wonderful thing to do in a portfolio. Then she put a single image with the color palette she chose for her project. And she talks about using these other apps. This is just split view again, but she really is just taking us through the entire process, the tools used, the reasoning why she used them, and the results of these tools, which is great. She's even giving us the trial and error of trying to create her profile picture, which I think is a really fun thing to see. Like when I come from a teaching background as well, and I always appreciated seeing progress. I taught photography, and a student would think they were done because they took one picture that met the requirements. And it's, the idea is that, can you do better? And then let's keep trying to do better. Okay, so as you can see, she took us all the way through into the end result, which is her painting video, which is a link to it. I'm sorry, that's not quite. She built a website with Muse, which is actually being phased out. And then her final reflection at the very end. And one thing that you might notice on these portfolios is they're just one long scrolling page, but we're actually going to talk about a way to add navigation as well. But Spark pages are single page websites that are very visual and aesthetic. So this was a single project reflection. And then another concept, another way that she has implemented portfolios in her class was to do a general process reflection where he reflected on each project instead of showing one big project and how it came to be. He just said, each project, this is how it went and how I did it. So those are they're similar at face value, but we're seeing individual projects reflected on and big projects pulled apart and reflected on. So, and as she said here, he was not satisfied with the outcome of his most ambitious project, but he still demonstrated the gains that he made and explains what he would do differently, which I think demonstrates learning and progress. Oh, we got a chat here. Yes. Any questions are fair game about portfolios or about Spark Page and everything in between. So here's, you can see his introduction. This is my final entry. And SBS 350 is an introduction to Creative Cloud course. So the whole point of this class, I would say, is probably digital literacy, learning how to create with these particular apps. So here he's got a little glide show with a longer introduction. And you can see I was initially maybe a little overwhelmed. It seemed daunting, but in the end, I was reassured I could do anything I put my mind to, which I think is a really strong sentiment here, because a lot of us can be pretty intimidated by new unknown technologies. Samantha was telling me that when she introduces projects to students, there's a place for them to ask questions, and she got 7 questions in a row that were just saying, what's Spark Page? What is Adobe Spark? Are we going to ever use Spark again? And so when we see something new, we kind of approach it cautiously, which is okay. But here's another great story of how, it seemed a little intimidating, but it really came together. So he broke it down by application. Looks like he did Photoshop and Illustrator. And then he talked about Animate and Premiere. So he had kind of themes of 2-dimensional image making, and then animation and video, and then web, which is funny. I think I use this same image on ours. And here he's pretty blunt about how easy or hard everything was. He uses some strong language about how he feels his website looks, that it looks like the 1990s, what was it, GeoPages? But as he's learning, this is a really nice, I feel like this is a great reflection that when 2 years from now or when I look back and see how far I've come, this is already going to be valuable in that way. So
one thing, can I
go
point
for it.
out something really
Please.
rich about this portfolio?
Mhm.
And Alex alluded to this earlier by talking about the use of first person pronouns as well. It is so important to encourage students that this isn't the style of writing that they want to achieve here is not the most academic and prestigious writing, but to have a more natural and organic tone, and letting them know that like the stakes for sounding really, really academic are not high, allows them to be more sincere and genuine. And that's something that, depending on what type of class you're practicing, if you have a class that is on academic writing, then sure, maybe you want to kind of weave that into their portfolio through practice. But encourage them to be college level but genuine, and sometimes that's informal, right? We can see that sentence right here on Alex's screen. As you can see, my website is complete shit and looks like something out of the 90s. Maybe that's a little bit too hardcore, but I think you get what I'm saying here.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. It gives them an opportunity to be real, to be raw. And I really like these examples that Reese shared with us, because I think a lot of us, when we think of a portfolio, we just think of all our stuff thrown somewhere, but they have this huge reflective element to it. And they can be anything and everything in between, and there are more. If you want to make a 100% professional portfolio, there's also a Adobe portfolio site that's a lot less user-friendly, but we might do something about that as well. And then this final example is not a portfolio. I just liked this page. I found it on the internet and I don't know who it belongs to, so it one day might not work for us, but it's just a Spark page demo that says, what can you put in a Spark page? And it just gives you all these examples. You can add a caption to a glide show. Can it be an e-portfolio? Yeah, why not? And how can you add an image? You can add one inline or full width, or, well, the window one's broken, but that's okay. So this is a nice way, if you're not sure what everything means when you're working on your page, you can visit this example and kind of visualize what those are as well. And there's a bear here. I love bears, so I was already really happy to be here. That was my reaction. So what I would like to do now is actually talk about creating a Spark page in the style of a portfolio. And this is the tools to kind of help create something that is not only good looking, but highly functional as well. So we're going to talk about how to create the page, add media, add text. I think some questions that come to mind to me as we say, I want to make an academic writing portfolio. How can this be posted on Spark page? And my first two solutions that come to mind are using links to the writing, or actually putting the entire writing in line in the page if it's not too long. I would not do, walls of text as my entire portfolio. I would probably just break them into links, which there's so many ways you could do that as well. You could do a Spark page for each one and give it a link. So let's chat about these. So Spark page is a single page website that is, it can be created by anyone with an internet connection, and you don't even need an Adobe subscription to use Spark page. It's 100% free, you just need an account, which is what I really enjoy about this. I stumbled upon Spark pages when I was teaching high school in the middle of the pandemic, and we had to do distance learning, and I had to come up with a way to have my students submit their work in a more interesting way than a Dropbox, because I also need to be engaged by the work that is coming my way, which maybe not everybody does, but I want students to be proud of what they're submitting, and to submit it in a way that has a little oomph and maybe something a little more at stake, because they can be viewed by more than just me and them. So it's free, it's cloud-based. I think it's generally easy to use. I think probably the most complicated part is doing anchor links, and that's just doing them in the right order. And you can instantly share. You can create a shareable link that is published and can be viewed by anyone on the internet. You can do more than publish a link. You can embed and collaborate too. But so let's see here. I think I'm done with our web page. I'll come back to anchor links. All right, let's go to, and I encourage you to follow along if you like. I have some files on my computer that I'm going to use, but they're not entirely necessary. So the first thing is to log into spark.adobe.com. How many of you have used Spark before? Samantha has. I have. See some thumbs up. Very cool. So we might know that it's more than just a web page program. In fact, I think the flagship mode of Spark is Spark Post. And then I think Spark Page comes next, and I put Spark Video last, but it's a good tool as well. Okay, so to make a web page, you click the blue circle with a white plus in it, and you choose web page. And if you like, before you start putting everything in here, you can go over to themes in the top right and choose a theme that you like. Because Spark is free and it's meant to be fast, kind of high performing and easy to use, you don't have the same level of control as you might with a Spark, a WordPress, or a hand-built website, or even paying for something like Squarespace or Wix. The theme you get is the theme you have, and one little thing you do have control over is you can build a brand, input your brand colors, and it'll make you a light, medium, and dark theme based on your brand's colors, which is nice. Is it something that you want to get into if you're showing your students portfolios? It's probably not the first concern there. So just tell them to choose the theme that they like. There's some whimsical ones, there's some very minimal ones, and a little bit in between. I think I like Baldwin. All right, so it starts you out with your hero image. You have no choice but to start out with a nice big image with a title. You don't have to do a subtitle. I don't think you have to do a title at all. So let's go ahead and call this my portfolio. Very nice. By Alex G. And then it says add a photo. And these little plus signs on Spark Page are going to be the way that you add content. And then you click on the content itself to change what it's doing. So we'll see what that looks like. So let's choose photo. When you do that, you'll see you can upload your own. You can find free photos with Creative Commons licensing. You can connect to your Creative Cloud library, to your Lightroom, or these other ones. And you can also access Adobe stock if you've licensed anything. If you search here, it doesn't let you license, but if you have your own thing and you haven't licensed too much, you can find your images here. Otherwise, you're just going to see a sea of all images licensed through the university, which can be kind of fun. Like, check out these cats. Those are fun, but it can be a little difficult to navigate as well. And I think I had an image for this. Maybe not. Let's just choose one of these licensed images. This is nice. Are there any questions so far? We haven't gotten too far, but sometimes people lose the website button or can't upload an image or anything like that. Okay, so now it says scroll to start writing your story. And I always like this. Adobe always talks about using Spark to tell a story. Your portfolio is a story of the work that you've done. Okay, good question. Do we have to use a theme, or can we design a simple site ourselves? The word theme is just describing the font and the color and the font style. So those are your simple sites. It does ask you to put a header image, but if I were to go down now, you can see the plus here, and it says you can add these 7 kinds of media. If I add text, I'm making a simple site here. My simple website. And I can highlight this, and I have, these are all my type options. I don't choose a font size. I can make it an H1 to make it a bigger font, and I can center it. And then the next part of my simple website could be a body of text, which we're going to use a lorem ipsum generator called hipster ipsum that puts trendy words in there sprinkled with Latin. So I could take my text, maybe I don't want 5 paragraphs, let's just do 2. And paste it in here. So hopefully that answers your question. Do you see how this is basically a simple website as it is? You don't have to have an explicit theme. You can put whatever, as much or as little content in there as you like. Okay, so you can just add text, and the way Spark Page works is it just works in full blocks. It's like a sandwich, right? You have your bread, and then in between you have all the ingredients. You can't decide that you want text on one side and image by clicking those plus buttons. You just have to choose a split view or something like that. So let's go ahead and see a few ways that we can kind of add things to our site. So you're welcome. If I click plus, I think a fun way to invite people into your site is with a glide show. So I'm going to use a bunch of my wife's images here because it was what I had on my computer. So a glide show is an image that has a scrolling animation that as you move through the site, it kind of transforms a little bit, some text pops up and goes away and takes you to the next section. So let's upload a picture. Here you could use one from stock as well. I'm just going to use one of Gina. I think this is it. Yep. So you can add a few, but I like to do a single image and then I'll hit save. So you can see my portfolio, and then it goes to a glide show that has this kind of activity. And then what I would do is right here is put, I don't know, I could put another image if I wanted to. What do I have here? And then I could put text, welcome to my portfolio. And then I could put a table of contents, which is going to be how we can make our website something that people can navigate. Part 1, part 2, part 3. So if I do things a little fast, all I've done is hit that plus sign, choose glide show, drop an image in there, and then this little window on the glide show can also have content. And I'd put an image in there as well. You can put a video too if you want. I could click plus, choose video, and I could put a YouTube link in there. I wanted to go to Adobe at U of A. So I could choose one of my workshop recordings, and I could put it in here, and it'll show up as an embedded video just with that single link, which I think is really nice because even trying to find an embed code can be a challenge for people. And here you can instantly put a video in there. Let's say I don't want it. I click on it and I delete it, or I edit to change the link. They haven't added a way to grab and move elements around yet. So if you put it where you didn't want it, you'll have to delete and reorder however you wanted to. Okay, let's delete the video. So part 1, part 2, part 3. So let's pretend this is actually part 1. Am I typing? Ooh, sorry, I've got a little lag here. And part 1 might be my introduction. And this could be just a block of text like this. I could put another image in here, photo. And let's just pull from our stock libraries again. I'm going to put that cat in here because I was really, this cat screams introduction. And when you put an image inline like this, instead of like we put it in the glide show or in the hero image, it asks you, do you want it to be simply inline, which is how we're seeing it. It just kind of goes in between the text. Do you want it to fill the screen where they scroll past it? It's similar to a glide show, but it has no animation. You can put a caption. Do you want a window, which is kind of fun? It's this image that shows up in a like a little slit that you can see it like a stencil opening, or full width, which makes it just as big as possible on the page. For this, oh look, you can move this. That's nice. Inline is what I'm going to do. And you can also add a caption. Hello and welcome. Okay. Something's happening with my keyboard today, but that's okay. Okay, and then we have all this, which might be some requirement you had that asked them to introduce the why and how and where their portfolio is going to take us, the story. And at this point, if I'm curious how a user is going to experience my portfolio, I could click the preview button. And it'll show me the actual website as if somebody else was visiting it. So we can see the hero image, that can be whatever you like. And then we see the glide show. And I just love all the little animations that the website gets that makes it look like you did a lot of really hard work. But really all I've done is click and copy and paste. So it says, welcome to my portfolio. These are going to be links. This will be the last thing I do because adding navigation on a Spark page requires your entire Spark page to be laid out. There's my glide show, and then part 1, introduction. There's my hello cat, I guess hello kitty, and my lorem ipsum, and then we get to the bottom. So let's keep going. Let's say we're going to add our next section, which is going to be writing samples. So I'm going to add what's called, and I mean, you can encourage them to have fun with it. So you could split each part up with a glide show or a full width image. In fact, let's just do it for fun. Let's do another photo. And I think I saw stuff that, yeah, this says writing. Where'd it go? I lost it. Okay, so if I insert this and I set it to a window, I might put that in between and then do a split layout. So I'm just putting that there as little visual filler. It is important to have, for anyone making these, to remember that more is not always better. You want to carefully choose the amount of images and videos that you put in there. So, you know, I'm not going to throw 1,000 pictures in here just because I think it looks neat. Okay, so we have this kind of image, and then I'm going to put an image on another side and some information on the opposite end. And I think I actually want the text on the left and the image on the right. So let's swap them. Oh, oops. Let's add it again, split layout. And now the image is on the right and the text is on the left. So this is part 2, and we'll call it part 2. And this might be our writing samples. Maples. I'm going to make this a nice big heading, and and you can put it to the left, center, or to the right. Spark Page seems to build nicest with centered things. And you might just put a series of links here. Mine aren't going to be real because I don't have any, well, I guess I do have some, but so you can add another element that I haven't shown yet. So I've shown you can add images, glide shows, simple text blocks, videos, and split view. But you can also add a button, and buttons are meant to hold a link to somewhere. So if I click button, this is sample one, and then you have to put the link here, and you might have a link to, they might have them in Google Drive and have them put the link to be a viewer. So that might be an additional piece of teaching that you would need to do. Or maybe they already know. Usually at this point, students know how, but not everybody will. So you always have to be prepared to provide the resources. We're just going to go to Google for this one, and you can align your button. And just another note on the styles, just so you can see, the themes, excuse me, also affect your button and your heading and colors. So that's all these themes do. So they don't change anything functionally, they just add a different flavor to your website. I'm sticking with Baldwin, maybe I'm boring. So you can put as many links as you like, but again, I know I would have liked to have put 3 buttons side by side in a row. You just can't do that yet. So that's okay though. Sample 2, and this one's going to take us to Adobe. All right, and sample 3. This one will just take us to arizona.edu. If they were short, well, actually, just one final thought. You could also have them host an entire project as its own Spark page and have them link to that button instead. So there's many ways that you could do it. And some people build multi-page websites just by linking several different Spark pages together. So there are different ways to do the same thing. And you could also put a whole chunk of text in here if you wanted. And I think it's interesting to see how split view behaves when you do that. So let's put it in here and let's italicize it. One thing I like is that it does know, like Command or Control I is to italicize, Command or Control B is to bold. It doesn't actually have underline because that's it's not a quick attribute that you can add. Okay, and we could put an image here again. Books, a little on the nose, right? So our website is kind of coming together pretty quickly here, hopefully not too fast. And then let's just do part 3. Oh, look, there's my split view. I'm going to delete it. So I'm going to click on this part and delete. And what I want you to notice is I haven't stopped and saved. It saves as I work. And you know, if I close this and open it again, as long as my internet connection was stable, it'll be as I expect it. One little side note that I think is important to know, not that it's ever happened to me, but if you're working on a Spark page and then you go to bed and wake up the next day, refresh the page before you start working on it again, because they tend to lose their connection and the autosave is no longer saving and you lose some of your work. Again, never happened to me, I think maybe all the time. Okay, so let's say part 3 is going to be a photo gallery. Maybe we had a photo assignment for this. It's actually going to be artwork, but so I could do let's just go straight into it. Let's just put text H1 top 9 pieces from 2021, and I will center it. And then I'll put a tiny bit of text here. Let's just copy some more of this lorem ipsum. I like to italicize. I don't know why it makes it feel like someone's talking. So this would be the introduction to the gallery, and then we're going to add a nice little photo grid. And I really like photo grids. Yeah, thanks, Brian. We're pretty much perfect here. We never make mistakes. So photo grids, take your pictures and put them in an almost mosaic layout and make them into a clickable gallery that can have captions as well, which is really great because oftentimes you'll just get this endless scroll of single images, and it's not very fun for a viewer to experience. Maybe I just have high expectations as a viewer. Maybe I'm needy. So you can build an entire photo grid out of stock images, which is what I would recommend if you're doing right now. But I'm going to upload a few of my wife's paintings because she's got them here. Oh, I had an image I wanted to put. Oops. Okay. So I'm just going to hold shift and select that whole row. And you can see it has put some of her work. And you can decide which ones will be large or small by clicking on them. And you can change the order of them as well. These all happen to be vertical, so it's not really doing a lot of mosaic. It just kind of made them change sizes as we progressed. All right, so then you hit save, and we have, I don't think I know how to count. I don't think, oh, it is 9, good. So then if you click here, you can edit your grid. I thought you could do captions on these. Am I wrong? I'm wrong. You can just caption the whole grid. Only the whole grid can be captioned. So hopefully they add that. So right now, when I click on the grid, it just says, hey, you can edit it. But if I preview my website, I can see what a visitor would see. Let's go to the top. We have our exciting heading. We have our glide show with a table of contents. We have part 1, which is an intro. Part 2 are my writing samples. These will be, well, these are linkable buttons. So if I click, that one goes to Google. That one goes to adobe.arizona.edu, and the other one should go to the U of A. But they can go to any web link. So, I mean, you could get, like, it would be super fun to take a writing sample on Spark Post and turn it into a little design project as well as a writing project, and then just have it linked to that or put in the website. Okay, and then we have top 9 pieces. If I click, it's a gallery that I can click through and see watercolors, and then I can expect out of it. Are there any questions at this point? Because the next thing I would like to show you is how to publish your page, and then how to go back and add navigation, which kind of feels backwards, but we can't navigate until our website is an actual website. And of course, there will be time for questions at the end, so no worries if you'd rather wait. All right, let's exit our preview. And what we're going to do now is share our page. Our site settings are not too crazy. You can actually put Google Analytics if you like to track the visitors, the amount of time that they spend on the web page. You just have to set up a Google Analytics account, and then you'll get your tracking number, and you can have a header and footer offer on. So not a lot of options because, again, this is meant to be extremely user-friendly. It also has presentation mode. Some people will use this instead of PowerPoint or Google Slides just to make a different style of presentation. All right, so to create an actual website link, we go to the share button and we go to publish and share link. And the very first time you go here, you're given the opportunity to name your website. And that name is what shows up in the tab in the top of your browser window. So maybe stress to do this the very first time because you can't go back and change it. You'll have to duplicate your website. So I would name this Alex G Portfolio, even though nothing in there is mine. You can pick a category if you want. You don't have to. And what's really great is it goes ahead and credits the images that are used through the search function. So you don't have to worry about, what's the word? It's not piracy. Either way, we know academic dishonesty is the long way of putting it. Plagiarism. So once that goes through, our publish button, our share turns into this, and it gives us a link and it gives us a few share options. You can actually embed this within a website. If you have your own domain name, you can just make it display an embedded website instead, which is kind of neat. But all we need is this link. So I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it in here if you'd like to check it out. And this is a live website now. So you can build a pretty good looking website and not very long once you get comfortable with it. Now, the final thing I want to talk about is website in-site navigation, which are what we call anchor links. If we look at the page we sent today, it has those. If you have back to agenda, it takes you to the agenda. If you click examples, it takes you to the examples. And oops, clicked the wrong one, excuse me. And then we can go to additional resources. So this makes these pages, I think this adds a ton of value because it lets you be a little less hesitant about how much you put in there, because now you don't get stuck scrolling through the entire page. As a viewer, you can navigate to the parts you want to see. So on the portfolio page, there's a link to a video we've made about how to do anchor links. There's a step-by-step, and then there's the actual web page for all of that too. So this is what I mean, that this button can take you to another Spark page. It can take you to any URL. The images are a little on the nose, which is how I like to do things. Oh, we lost someone, they're coming back. So if you want to add navigation to your page, the first thing to do is to have your outline set up. You don't have to have your content set up. You just need to know where things are going to go. And of course, you can edit it and change things as you go along, but at least have all of your sections defined, which is pretty easy if we talk about what Samantha was saying, where you want to have your general idea of your portfolio created. You might say, show me your 5 strongest and 2 weakest assignments from the year. So a student will know that they'll have 7 sections. They can go and lay those out really quick. Each section that you want somebody to be able to navigate to has to either be an H1 or an H2 text. So this is a list. This is regular text. This is an H1 text. It's that bigger. This is a quote, so you can't anchor link that. I don't think we have any H2s in this. Doesn't look like it, but H2 is just slightly smaller. The H means heading, and the number next to it means how important it is. So H1 is the most important, it will be the biggest. Okay, and then you publish your page, which is what we just did. We went to share. Oops, this is someone else's. we went to share and we published our page. And that's why you can go to Alex G Portfolio and see my webpage. And you can see my part 1 is an H1 text. And it's, if you hover on it, you'll see this little hyperlink button show up. And there you can see it says copy anchor link. So it's already built in. So if I click copy anchor link, it's going to copy that to my computer's pasteboard. And if I go back to my website, that was part 1. So now I want to turn this part 1 text into a hyperlink to that anchor link, which might be a lot of use of the word link. So here's my insert link button. And then I paste Command or Control V and save. And it really is just that, copying the anchor link you want and turning it into a hyperlink on a different part of the page. So let's go ahead and go to part 2. Click on this link, highlight part 2, click the insert link button and paste. And you can see it says part 2 writing samples there. It's how it navigates to it. And then part 3, which is my top 9 pieces in 2021. So I just hovered, clicked on the link again to copy it. And then I highlight this and paste. One final thing that I like to do is create a link back to the table of contents. So I actually don't have that yet. So what I want to do is add a text that's H1 or H2, and I would just call it contents. Almost, so close. Now, I've made all these changes and my website has saved, but I need to update my web link. I need to publish it again, because if I reload this website, it stays exactly the same. I haven't gained any links here, and that content word isn't there either. So to do that, and I found when I worked with students on this, 99% of the time when there was a problem with their website, it's because they didn't go to share, publish, and update the link. The link itself doesn't change the text of it. It just updates the content of that link. I hope that makes sense. So as this is updating my link, when it's done, if I go to almost there. All right. And remember that Adobe is building, it's coding out this entire website for you and publishing it, which is why it can sometimes take a little bit. All right, let's reload this web page. And now I have my contents, which I can use as an anchor link. And I have part 1. And I have part 2. And I have part 3. And you might notice the other problem I'd like to solve right now is that I have to scroll all the way back up to see the contents again. So I'm going to add little buttons that say back to contents. And I'm going to copy this anchor link that says contents. All right. And then that'll be it. We'll have time for questions. We can do anything you'd like to do. Back to contents. Paste, center. This is a little, it's going to be a 4th button in a row that's different. I probably wouldn't recommend that, but that's okay. Maybe we'll leave it off to the side so that it feels different. And then another button. It doesn't have to be a button. It could be just text. I could type text contents, but it cannot be H1, H2, or quote text because those cannot have links on them. And we can center it. Okay, So it's saved, but I have to update the link one last time. And I believe that's the end of today's content. Here goes our progress bar. So this is time dedicated for questions, for clarifications, for anything that you might need and want. If anybody's curious, I could show you the little more advanced Adobe portfolio site as well. Otherwise, you can enjoy an early end and have a wonderful day. But so let's go to part 1, and you can see back to contents jumps me back to the table of contents. So thank you so much for joining us. I hope you find a use for Spark Pages. They can do a lot more than portfolios. And again, thank you to Samantha and Brian for helping with this today as well. All right, I'm going to stop sharing. Thank you, Lauren. I'm glad you found it helpful. Yeah, so if you have any questions, we're here. Otherwise, you don't have to stay.